6:02 p.m. We will call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is citizen comments. If you want to speak to our preliminary recommendations on the mobile home parks, we'd ask you to wait for the public hearing that's coming up next. But if you have something else on your mind that you'd like to share, we invite you to do so now. Sure, come on up.
Thank you for addressing me. My name is Nadia Reyna Silver. I live in Copper Lantern Homes, the nice townhouses across from Lake Terrace. I pass Lake Terrace all the time on my way to go get a coffee or to go to the library, so on and so forth. I am online at Kenmore Neighbors, and I get a chance to be part of that Facebook page and hear a lot of the comments that are made there. And as someone who used to be homeless and did not expect it, and well-educated, I have a master's, for crying out loud. Hearing some of the comments that I've heard the community have has kind of rattled me a little bit, because I moved here thinking that this was a nice small town and people cared and could look for their fellow man. That's not the case. I've actually had to house a couple of people recently because they lost their homes for reasons that they really had no control over. And while it's not exactly related to the mobile home, it is related to the housing crisis that we're feeling all over King County. And we have an opportunity here to really show our best instead of our worst. Right now, if I can be so frank, it's a pissing match between us and Amazon. As of today, I saw the CNN report. So if we can finally get our shit together and Kenmore be the example, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Could you state your name and address for the record? I'm sorry.
Nadia Reyna Silver, 18230 70th Lane Northeast, Unit 206, Kenmore, Washington, 98028.
Are there any other citizen comments that are unrelated to the mobile home park public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to that item, the public hearing, and I'd invite the city staff to start with a brief presentation on the purpose and the process of this project.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, and thank you very much for coming to tonight's public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to give your feedback on the preliminary Planning Commission recommendations for the mobile home parks.
Buenas noches, muchas gracias a todos por venir a la audiencia pública de esta noche, y la misión es poder oír las recomendaciones preliminares de la Comisión de Planificación sobre los parques de casas rodantes. Y un momento para preguntar, ¿hay alguien que necesita intérprete?
Okay, as you can see, we have a Spanish interpreter here this evening, and we have two, in fact, and they will be helping us. They will not be translating the comments that are made in English to the Planning Commission, since all the comments this evening are to be directed to the Planning Commission. We're trying to save time in that regard.
Como se pueden dar cuenta, tenemos dos intérpretes de español aquí hoy que nos van a estar ayudando interpretando todos los comentarios de las personas que necesiten intérprete, como usted señora, y los comentarios de las personas en inglés no los vamos a interpretar, ya que esos comentarios van dirigidos a la comisión directamente y no va a ser necesario interpretar esos, pero todos los comentarios en español se van a interpretar.
The name from the sign-in sheet. So if you want to speak and you haven't signed in, please go over and do so.
Entonces lo que vamos a hacer hoy, el proceso es, si quieren hablar, hay un registro de entrada, pueden poner su nombre y los vamos a llamar por nombre cuando puedan pasar a hablar.
Okay, and then we ask that you give your name and then the mobile home park that you are speaking about, if you are speaking about one in particular. And then after you speak, we'll ask that you will hear where there's another more comprehensive sign-in. We weren't sure how many people there would be here, so we didn't want to roadblock at the make sure we spell your name correctly, that we know what park you're addressing, and you can add your name to our mailing list.
Entonces, lo que les pedimos a todos que hagan hoy, si quieren hablar, es cuando entren, hay una hoja de registro de entrada, que por favor pongan su nombre allá, que cuando pasen a la tarima para hablar, que den su nombre, el parque de donde vienen, para nosotros tener esa información, y después, para dar información adicional, hay otra hoja allá, que no la quisimos poner a la entrada para que todo el mundo no se arme una cola en la entrada, sino hay otro registro de entrada donde también pedimos que pongan su nombre para saber que lo deletreamos bien, y también el nombre del parque de donde ustedes viven, ¿sí? O del parque del que quieren hablar.
So when you come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. We'll allow 6 minutes if you need to have an interpreter. And the hearing is being held tonight and tomorrow night because we weren't sure how many folks to expect.
Entonces, cuando pasen a la tarima, tienen 3 minutos para hablar. Si es con intérprete, 6, porque toma más tiempo. Hoy hay una audiencia, mañana también, y lo hicimos porque no estábamos seguras de cuántas personas iban a venir.
Okay, so those are the logistics of the public hearing. And now I want to tell you a little bit about the project. For those of you, I'm sure all of you are familiar.
Entonces, eso es un poquito sobre la logística de cómo van a pasar las cosas, y ahora vamos a hablar un poco del proyecto, y yo pienso que todo el mundo está un poco ya familiarizado con el proyecto en sí.
Okay. So the city recognizes that mobile home parks are a significant source of affordable home ownership in the community. And currently, there are no regulations in the city that would prevent a property owner from redeveloping a mobile home park. That they own the property, that is their ability. And so the idea is that the city doesn't own the properties, and the question is, should the city take a more proactive role?
Entonces, la ciudad admite que los parques de casas rodantes son una fuente importante de viviendas propias, asequibles dentro de esta comunidad. La ciudad de Kenmore. Actualmente la ciudad no tiene regulaciones que prevengan o mitiguen los efectos de la clausura de los parques, pero los parques no son de la ciudad, los parques le pertenecen a personas que son propietarias de esos terrenos. Entonces, esas personas pueden optar por desarrollar ese parque, y entonces la ciudad quiere ser proactiva para saber qué hacer con respecto a si surge esa situación.
So, the ideas that the Planning Commission are considering have to do with either preventing a closure or making a closure less likely, or addressing the impact of a closure. So again, the city does not own these properties. During the time the Planning Commission has been discussing the options, they've noticed a need to balance the idea of having more housing units and making sort of stabilizing rents with the idea of providing affordable housing. So they're trying to work a balance between these two things.
Entonces, una vez más, estamos tratando de ver qué se puede hacer para prevenir que esto ocurra, o qué pasos se pueden tomar para que la clausura sea menos probable, o simplemente para abordar el tema de qué puede ocurrir en caso de que exista esta clausura. Una vez más, la ciudad no es dueña de estos terrenos son propiedad privada, y entonces la Comisión de Planificación ha estado tratando de hablar de todas estas cosas, de hablar de las opciones que hay, y también de hablar de la necesidad de balancear, por un lado, el número de unidades que existen de viviendas asequibles, y también la necesidad de lidiar con el hecho de que se necesitan más unidades por el crecimiento que hay, por la necesidad de aumentar la densidad.
So, and while this is occurring, the City Council has put a moratorium on redevelopment of the mobile home parks, and that means that it's a temporary measure that would not allow redevelopment until the Planning Commission and the City Council make their final decisions.
Entonces, por ahora, el Consejo Municipal ha puesto una moratoria, una suspensión en la reurbanización hasta que se pueda determinar qué es lo que va a ocurrir o cómo llegar a ciertas soluciones, o hasta que se pueda tener este proceso de conversación que se está teniendo.
Okay, so when the Planning Commission was looking at the recommendations, they used a set of criteria, and the handouts over on the table, if you were on the mailing list, you received that in the mail, but if not, there are copies of the handouts showing the criteria and the recommendations on the table near the entry door.
la Comisión de Planificación, el Consejo Municipal, llegó a ciertas recomendaciones usando ciertos criterios, y hay copias disponibles en la mesa del personal, y también si ustedes estaban en la lista de correos, en la lista también recibieron eso por correo, la lista de las recomendaciones.
Okay. So now I'm just going to summarize the recommendations, and then I'll turn it back over to Chair Orenshaw to conduct the public hearing. So for two of the parks, Lakewood Villa and Inglewood East, these are the ones on Northeast 175th Street, the Commission is recommending a variety of methods to ensure long-term preservation through zoning regulations, potential purchase, and incentives to the property owner.
Entonces, vamos a hablar rápidamente brevemente sobre las recomendaciones, y después permitiré que continuemos con la conversación. Entonces, para dos de los parques, Lakewood Villa y Inglewood East, la Comisión recomienda una variedad de métodos para asegurarse de la preservación a largo plazo por medio de regulaciones de zonificación, la posibilidad de compra e incentivos para los dueños de la propiedad.
Right. For three of the parks, Kenmore Village and the two smaller parks along Northeast 185th Street, the Commission is recommending that the owner be allowed to redevelop the property if new affordable housing units are provided. This recommendation also includes requirements for a relocation plan and potential relocation assistance.
Entonces, para tres de los parques, Kenmore Village, y dos más pequeños, cerca de la 181, la Comisión está recomendando que se permita la reurbanización, pero solamente si se proporcionan nuevas unidades de vivienda. La recomendación además incluye requisitos para un plan de traslado o para asistencia de traslado a los dueños.
Okay. And for the remaining park, Lakewood on Northeast 182nd Street, the Planning Commission is recommending that, as with Kenmore Village and the two smaller parks, redevelopment be allowed, the property owner be allowed to redevelop the property if it provides new affordable housing units, but also that the city consider providing incentives for the property owner to continue the park in mobile home use.
Y para el último parque que no hemos mencionado, Lakewood, en la 182, la Comisión de Planificación está recomendando que, al igual que con Kenmore Village y los otros dos parques más pequeños, se permita la reurbanización siempre y cuando haya nuevas unidades de vivienda asequibles, pero también que la ciudad considere el proporcionarle incentivos a los dueños de la propiedad para que continúen usando ese parque como un parque de casas rodantes.
And then in June, at their meeting in June, after the second hearing night tomorrow, which will be the same format as this evening, in June, the Planning Commission will finalize their recommendations. Those recommendations will go to the City Council, and the City Council will make the final decisions, and particularly with regard to anything that would involve public funds.
Entonces, mañana va a haber una reunión igual a esta, el mismo tipo de reunión de la que tenemos aquí hoy, y después en junio la Comisión de Planificación va a preparar la recomendación final para el Consejo Municipal, y el Consejo Municipal va a llegar a sus decisiones finales tomando en cuenta ciertas directrices sobre la política a seguir, y también considerando los ciertos enfoques donde pueden haber fondos públicos.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Orenshaw, and I want to thank Eliana and Marcilla is our second interpreter, and thank you for all being patient so everyone can understand what.
Muy bien, entonces ahora le voy a permitir a los comisionados que hablen, y tenemos a las dos intérpretes, Eliana y Marcela, y bueno, muchas gracias a todos por venir.
Thank you, Lori. So Lori went over the ground rules, but I just wanted to add one thing, and that's that I think, all recognize this is a very challenging topic, and people have different views about it, and we're here to listen to everyone's comments in an atmosphere of civility and respect. So we would ask you not to cheer or boo or otherwise speak out from the audience, so we can support the rights of everyone to not only share their comments, but to truly be heard. So thank you for acknowledging that. So
bueno, y entonces Sorry, Mark. Entonces, para decir algo más aparte de lo que ya dijo Lori, este es un tema, es un reto para todos y hay muchas personas que tienen puntos de vista distintos. Entonces, lo único que les pido es que a todo el mundo respete los comentarios de otros, las opiniones de otros, que nadie grite, ni aplauda, ni tampoco haga, anime, ni haga comentarios feos de lo que digan otras personas, sino que todos respetemos las opiniones, nos respetemos a todos, nos apoyemos y bueno, y ya está.
Our first speaker is Sharon Hawkins.
Hi, my name's Sharon Hawkins, and I live at 7301 Northeast 175th Street, number 308, Kenmore, which is also Inglewood East Shores Mobile Home Park. All of us that live at this park own our own units and rent the land. We all take pride in our beautiful community. We feel that our park brings value to Kenmore. Our park shows how, even though it is a 55 and older park and so-called affordable living, we keep it beautiful. It's almost a park-like setting. We all have put our life savings into our homes, and we all work hard to keep the land we rent in immaculate condition. Our or my concern is the word affordable. It keeps being used. What is the definition of that word? Our land rent alone is more than half of almost everyone's income who lives there, which doesn't seem affordable to me. Our rent goes up every year regardless of the cost of living increase from SSI or lack of increase. There has to be a group committee in place to keep an eye on this, so it is truly affordable, especially in a park that resides 55 and older citizens whom are almost all on SSI or fixed incomes. Please preserve our beautiful community while controlling the aspects of affordable living costs. The definition of affordable is to be able to do or bear without serious consequence, to be able to comfortably meet the expense of. Our rent doesn't fall under that definition if the rent is so much that it is taking over half of the residents' monthly income just by itself. So how or who is going to keep the rent amounts in check so that they are affordable for the people who are living on SSI, which most 55 and older people are doing so? There must be an ordinance or law that protects or controls the rent rates in senior citizen communities that are relevant to the 55 and older mobile home parks, which can be imposed for these parks to keep the rent affordable. Thanks for listening and for your consideration.
Thank you, Sharon. Our next speaker is Jim Fry.
Can I have her minute that she didn't use? I'm kidding. My name is Jim Fry. I'm a director of the Association of Manufactured Homeowners for the state of Washington. I do not live in the city of Kenmore. However, I do live in a manufactured home in the city of South Everett, where we do have zoning protection from redevelopment. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, not only for this opportunity to speak to you, but also for the work that you in specific and the city of Kenmore in general have done on this very, very difficult issue. Being proactive is something that I'm sure will pay back in spades in the future. You've done a good job in identifying the problem, in studying the issues, and in listening to the communities involved. And we do appreciate that and the opportunity to make comments regarding your process and your recommendation. I have the following comments regarding your recommendation of April 17. First, the 4 properties that were not protected in the plan of April 17 were the ones that were considered as being redeveloped in the next 5 years. The ones that were protected have not been anticipated for redevelopment in the foreseeable future. Second, in your recommendations, 47% of the manufactured homes in the city of Kenmore would not be protected from closure. 121 family homes will be eliminated in the next 5 years without any protection from you. These are all the family parks, those that do not have an age restriction. 2 of these parks have the highest percentage of all the parks of homes that are post-1976. Third, the incidence of removing these 4 parks will have an effect of drastic increase in the density of the area with increased traffic and congestion, which the city of Kenmore can ill afford. And finally, the only reason a property owner would want to redevelop a manufactured home park is to make more money than he is now making. Manufactured home parks earn maximum profits with very little expense. Redevelopment at the expense of family homes to make additional profits for individuals is not doing the right thing. I'm asking you to reconsider your recommendations and give those with the highest exposure the protection the city has the responsibility to provide. Don't increase homelessness in the interest of preventing it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kylan Parks.
Good evening. My name is Kylan Parks. I reside in Linwood, Washington, and I am a manufactured home owner. I work with the State Association of Manufactured Homeowners, and I'd like to thank you all and the City of Kenmore and the Planning Commission for delving deep into this complicated issue of how to balance the need to preserve existing affordable housing while trying to balance private property rights with the need for more units with very little land to build on. You have made some very difficult recommendations to the City Council regarding the fate of these 6 communities in Kenmore. I have heard over and over from owners of these properties that they have no current plans to sell or redevelop. However, regardless of what the owners say, we all know from personal experience that life's unexpected turns can force our plans to change on a dime. That being said, please ask yourself, how important is having affordable housing in Kenmore to you? And what is your definition of affordable, as Sharon said? In the housing climate we face in this area right now, do you sacrifice the needs of residents in the 30 to 50% of area median income so that you can have more units for citizens of 80% of area median income? Kenmore currently area median income is over $93,000 per household, which means you would need to make over $74,000 to be considered 80% of area median income. Kenmore also currently has a 7.5 poverty level. I make this point because while I believe these communities are mixed income, I certainly know that a large percent do live in the 7.5 of poverty in these 6 communities. So you have chosen to recommend no protections for the homeowners residing in 4 communities, and you are recommending incentive protections for 2 senior communities by the river. Please remember, this will do nothing to preserve affordability of the lot space. Currently, the majority of residents are mostly seniors and people with disabilities with fixed incomes. I do believe that most of the folks leasing the land for their homes will be priced out of these communities on the river and lose their home and equity anyway. I do know of one community here on the river that currently has a sign up saying no new residents will be accepted without needing to have an income at least 4 times that of its lot space, which I know the majority of people do not have. This makes me ask how much Kenmore really cares about its most vulnerable citizens. Please ask what will happen to these unsubsidized homeowners if you don't put protections in place. My guess is your homeless population will raise and you will have many less affordable options available, which goes against the whole reason the city wanted to decide to look at manufactured housing communities first when coming up with developing an affordable housing strategy. Thank you for your time and the hours that you have listened to us and researched this.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nadia Raina Silver? Raina, excuse me.
Hello, my name is Nadia Reyna Silver. I actually do want to speak on this topic because...
I'm sorry, could you put your address?
I apologize.
Yeah.
18230 70th Lane Northeast, Unit 206, Kenmore, Washington 98028, Copper Lantern Homes. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to speak was I wanted to offer an outside-looking-in point of view. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. Before I moved here, I know, I'm here to take your jobs and homes. Whatever. But the point is, I'm actually here because you guys don't have a rent cap, and I've never heard of that before a day in my life. Not once. You don't have regulations on any of the landowners. You don't have regulations on any of the apartment. They can raise their rents to stupid amounts, and there's no law saying that they can't do that. Well, I'm from Tucson. I'm from Arizona. I'm from Phoenix. I'm from Gilbert, Scottsdale, you name it, and they got rent caps. They definitely do. You're only supposed to make, let's see, the rent's supposed to be only a third, at the very least, of what you're currently making. So you obviously have to go to certain parts of town. Let's say you're only earning enough to live in that certain part of town. A lot of people who work at Raytheon, they live on another side of town because they can afford the other side of town prices, and they can afford the commute 1 hour to and from in the car. You guys don't have anything like that. Plus, on top of that, if someone has had to use you guys as public transportation, it sucks. Do you know I have to walk an hour up the hill just to get to North Shore? That's ridiculous. If you guys had a bus, that'd be a lot easier. I understand that a lot of locals don't want a bus because it's noisy and all that stuff. But, you would have a lot of more financial blood coming in, and you'd have people wanting to open more businesses because you have a better transit system. I'm just saying, outside looking in, you guys should really consider all things. Yes, the mobile home thingy is very, I don't mean to bad with my words, please excuse me. But the mobile home development is part of that. On top of, they need to have rent regulation. They just need to. They need to have price regulations, and you guys have to have some kind of something that says, you know what, this person can't afford more than this, and we're just going to stop until they can. And that's the way it is in Tucson. That's the way it is in Phoenix. It's the way in Scottsdale. Y'all can snowbird all the way down there. Why can't y'all do the same thing when you come back up here? I'm done.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Arlene McKaylee-Bear.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Mackley-Bear. I reside at 7301 Northeast 175th Street in the city of Kenmore. I have lived at Inglewood East Mobile Park for over 19 years, be going on 20 years in October. It's also known as Inglewood East Shores. And I am currently under doctor's care for breast cancer. Just finished my radiation. This is the second time my body's been attacked with cancer. My only income is disability, and my rent takes over half of what I bring in. We thoroughly need, desperately need either a rent cap or have some way of making it affordable. It is not affordable now. Affordable is not walking through your mobile using a flashlight and only one 25-watt bulb. That's not affordable. I have to watch every penny in order to pay for my rent. And that is rent, and then we have on top of that, we have water, sewer, and all the other entities. And that comes up to one hefty price. I have less than $200 in order to pay for my phone, heat, and any other things that come up, including doctor bills, which I haven't been able to pay because I just don't have the money. When I moved here, I thought that this was going to be the last place that I would ever live. And every penny I had went into that mobile. It was built prior to 1970, so therefore I understand that it cannot be moved. I'm sorry. This is just really, really, really hits me. I don't go to movies. I don't go out to dinner. And my only place really is the doctor's offices, hospitals, and when I'm able to, church. Please, please, do not zone out Inglewood East Mobile Park. I don't have any place to go, and I would be homeless. And I pray that you folks spare the mobile home park I call home. And I thank you very much for your time, all of your hard work. And please, please consider a cap on rent, because we are being priced out of what we call home. I thank you very much for your time and compassion.
Thank you. Lori. Thank you.
Solo quiero hacer un comentario que agradezco los comentarios que están haciendo sobre que no desean que haya un incremento en las rentas. Este tema es muy importante, pero realmente tenemos que concentrarnos hoy en los asuntos de la zonificación y la reurbanización, porque las leyes estatales también prohíben que haya ese tipo de que se pongan límites en las rentas. Entonces podemos concentrarnos hoy en esos otros asuntos.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Crumwide.
My name's John Crumwide. I live at Inglewood East Mobile Home Park, where Arlene lives, who just spoke. We're mostly low-income seniors. We have some more fortunate that are pretty well off, but the most of us are on fixed income, low income, and desperate for affordable places to live. Out our last years, we bought homes at Inglewood East Mobile Home Park from Senator Paul Shin's family, and we felt safe that we'd be treated fairly and with respect, as he was state senator. And we were told that his family had no intention of selling when I bought in 2011. And in late 2011, without any notice, we found that our park had been sold to the Millard brothers. That changed everything. Our rents that had been $500, they were around $500 a month. Utilities were about $70 a month. Have now ballooned since 2012. Now we pay about $800 to $1,000 a month in rent and another $100 in utilities. The Millards insisted that we sign a 30-page lease with them that shifted most of the responsibility for the property and the maintenance of the property onto the homeowners, including the King County water removal from the property and Kenmore franchise fee. Those all got put on our utility bill and added more to the rent. Their purchase has really been a tragedy for us. Arlene has begged me not to tell you, but the water lines would break occasionally in the gardens. You turn on your water because they were faulty, and Senator Shin would replace them free of charge and cover the water. When Arlene's broke at her property, they charged her $600 for the water that spilled out of the pipe before she discovered it was broken. True story. Then the people, everybody pays their rent on time in there. Sometimes they're a week late, they're in the hospital, or one thing or another comes up. Now we face $145 late fee charges. I have one of those here. In 1 month, we got 5 of these delivered to our property. They claimed that the rent got there late in the mail. We used to be able to put our rent into the office. There was a mail slot to put our rent in. But we can't do that anymore because they insist we mail it to Renton. And then if it's late, or they say it's late, it costs us a $145 late fee. I also have one that got a little out of control. Dave was late a few months and he was critically ill. He got served a $9,546 late fee on his property and told that he would pay it in 30 days or be evicted. This is while he's sick. They're just not treating people with any respect or fairness. We're getting, people pay pet rent, $3 a month pet rent for their pets now. If you don't get your lease signed 90 days before it's due, you're assessed a penalty. I know, and those of us who've chosen to stay with our 2-page lease, what the lawyer said was legal, we now pay over $100 a month over the rent every month. Each year we're charged more and more money for not signing the Millard lease. Our boat launch that was free has been fenced off, and we now have to pay a $50 or $75 key fee to use the boat launch that's there. We moved in, it was advertised as affordable living with a boat launch, so people have boats. And
Mr. Grumwhitey? Mr. Grumwhitey?
Yeah,
I will need to wrap this up. Sorry.
I know. I just ask that, like the others have said, we need some kind of rent control and not be subjected to this kind of treatment for senior citizens that, like somebody said, through no fault of their own, have spent all their money on medical care or one thing or another and are stuck in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Stoner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time and energy on this issue and all the hours that you've spent working on it. I don't envy your position. There's a lot of competing interests, competing values that you have to weigh, as well as the City Council. So from my standpoint, my name is Daniel Stoner. I am the owner of Lakewood Mobile Home Park, not Lakewood Villa, Lakewood Mobile Home Park, which is right next door to City Hall here at 6837 Northeast 182nd Street. And so I really want to just speak to my park in particular, and the two options that have been proposed, or at least you're leaning toward proposing. Option 3A, which is incentive-based to encourage park owners like myself to keep it as an existing mobile home park, and through various incentives. And as the saying goes, the devil's in the details. So if there's an opportunity to discuss those at some point, or I don't know what the process is going to be in terms of fleshing those out, but it would be helpful to understand what the Council and the Planning Commission has in mind for those, as well as option number 4 with regard to not having a requirement to preserve the mobile home park, but requiring that the development include affordable housing units comparable in number, size, and cost to those being replaced. This is this is an example of those competing values in terms of wanting to preserve affordable housing, which is very important to Kenmore, but the trade-off is at some point down the road in the future having an opportunity to redefine what downtown Kenmore looks like, and if those restrictions are onerous, in other words, because a number of the mobile home parks are 2 bedrooms, does that mean then an equal number of 2 bedrooms in whatever development gets built someday long in the future? Am I required to put those same number of 2 bedrooms in that building at the rent restricted price? And if it is, then ultimately it will kill that opportunity to redevelop it. So it effectively is an ad hoc approach to preventing development. So ultimately the question in my mind that the Planning Commission as well as the City Council needs to weigh is, at what point do you want to meet your zoning code and the code that the city has passed to encourage more housing, not just mobile home parks, but more housing, affordable and other types, within the downtown core to encourage a walkable community. So it's nothing that we plan to do anytime soon, as we've made it very clear to our residents, to the council and the Planning Commission, but it's something that, again, the devil's in the details on what those requirements look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deborah Bartos.
Hello, my name is Deborah, and I live in Lakewood Villa, 7031 Northeast 175th. I've read over and over everything that's been said about Kenmore. I've laid it out in front of me, looking it over for a long time. I started putting myself in the equation as a resident, a mobile homeowner, a senior, a Hispanic, a developer, a landowner, and a person that thinks about the ecosystem. Every problem we encounter has a solution, but how do we find the solution with everyone in the community so they'll be happy and satisfied with our outcome? Not an easy task. I started combing through all the information and I picked out the key words. Then compared the space that Kenmore has next to the cities I think Kenmore is trying to model after. I rode the bus into Seattle to check out the skyline from the freeway, the apartments, condos, Belltown, Queen Anne Hill, and South Lake Union. The next day, I had my friend drive me to Ballard so I could look around, then to Redmond, Kirkland, and Issaquah. I started seeing a lot of the same similarities on all these cities, and at the same time, I started looking closer at the structures of the city. A lot of trees were cut down to bring these cities to life, and a few times I wondered, since we're surrounded by a lot of water, and it rains here a lot, if it would weaken the structure of the land, and one day we would just be swallowed up by sinkholes, break off into Puget Sound, Elliott Bay, or just slide into Lake Sammamish or Lake Washington. Up the hill in Issaquah Plateau, everything started to look the same to me. Row after row, the same design. The only thing that was different was the color of the flower pots at the front door. I was in Stepford, Connecticut, the fictional home of a movie called Stepford Wives. I went home and decided to stop thinking about the future of Kenmore for a while. I think as people, we really are suffering more than we know. There's a big divide between us when it comes to income, race, education, religious beliefs, equality, and opportunities. We are in a world of hurt right now. We no longer keep our problems and secrets hidden away in our homes. It's slowly spilling out into the street. A few days later, late at night and early morning, I was standing at the kitchen sink looking out the window at the dark, wondering, how did we get here? How did my life get here? Looking around my kitchen, I realized I was standing in the heart of my home. I put the hat I'm most comfortable wearing, engineering. Where is the heart of Kenmore? Is it the new restaurant being built? Is it the Kenmore Camera, City Hall, Kenmore Air? No, it was never a structure. It's the people of Kenmore. Looking around at all the other cities, I saw how everything started looking the same. The buildings, the people, the cars. When I looked at Kenmore, I see all different structures. Tall, short, colorful, some in poor conditions, but nothing that can't be fixed. Why can't it stay that way with a little help from the city of Kenmore, the landowners, and of course the people or persons responsible for the outsides of their home? Whether it be a stick house, wood, siding, or a residential floating on the water, a resident floating on the water. It could be a win-win situation for everyone if we were all willing to work together and take pride in our little city, Kenmore by the lake. Make it work, and maybe, just maybe, Kenmore can be the model of cities to come, and other cities will take notice. And Kenmore will be on the map, all 6.9 miles of it. This is such an uncertain world, and this would be a big gamble. But if some of us didn't take risks, we will never know. We will never know what will happen. And we know at any time things can change for each and every one of us. So why can't we make our communities work for everyone? We all have a role here in this city, and we all deserve to be here and not displaced over situations we have no control over. A few things
Ms.
I've heard...
Bartos, I need you to wrap this up.
Okay, a few things I've heard over my lifetime have really stuck in my thoughts. In 1985, I sat next to my father's bedside when he was dying, talking to him. He told me what he had learned in his life, what was important and what wasn't important. My father was a pillar of his community, never said a bad word about anyone, helped everyone that was in need, taught us how we were all equal but just different phases of our lives, worked hard all his life, provided above and beyond for his family. He was 14 days into being 60 when he died. In 1999 November, I had the pleasure of having a corner office that overlooked Pine Street right down the street from the convention center where the WTO, World Trade Organization leaders from all over the country were taking part. and the streets were filled with protesters.
I'd ask you to please wrap it up.
Okay. For 3 days, I heard the words, the world is watching. Compassion brings hope, and if we all stand together, we can rise up and do some great things that everyone will benefit from. Imagine the buzz when Kenmore is recognized as not only the little city by the lake, but the city that saved their community and became the heart of the state of Washington. Imagine this happening to us, Kenmore, and we could take on the saying, the whole world is watching. Kenmore, the little city, 6.26 miles, becomes a trailblazer for urban living and diverse communities. Kenmore, the best kept secret by our lake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joanna Crocker.
I'm all wet. I just came from work and picked a kid out of the water. Good evening. And I want to acknowledge that as grueling as some of these meetings and discussions have been for those of us from the parks, I suspect it's been equally taxing for some of the Planning Commission, all Planning Commission and all City Council members. And I appreciate your politeness as we sit here and have thrown some tough stuff at you. I'd also like to acknowledge for all of us that a lot of things that we would like to see change need to change at the state legislature. And I assure you, some of us will be going back down there the next time there is a session. So everybody's pretty much said all the things that I care about. And I sat with this for the last few days, and I thought about wealth. You know, and we just love wealth in Seattle. We love it that some people can make $95,000 a year. But true wealth is about abundance. And there's a lot of abundance in our parks. And I'd frankly much rather keep living in my 1975 funny-looking single-wide with my diverse neighbors than some of these new structures that are on all the hills, because there's real abundance. There's real community. And I don't agree with everybody. I don't even like some people. But we're community together, and we figure it out. And it's so rich. It's so amazing. Somebody finds out you're sick and they show up with soup. And then you start finding out all these people that are older than you are, or older than I am, are running out and doing stuff like volunteering at senior centers and hospitals, taking care of grandchildren so their adult kids can finish school or go to work. It's so abundant. And it provides juice for the entire community, whether you see it every day or not. It's a lifeblood. And that's it. And thank you again for sitting here with us night after night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ishbel Dickens.
Good evening, Commissioners and staff of the City of Kenmore. My name is Ishbel Dickens, 3306 East John Street, Seattle, 98112. I'm the former director of the National Manufactured Homeowners Association, and specifically went to law school to get my law degree to be an advocate for people who own their homes and live in manufactured housing communities. I have reviewed the recommendations, and I'm concerned that none of them has any guarantee of long-term security for the homeowners currently living in the communities in Kenmore. Manufactured housing communities are profitable businesses, and I would urge the City of Kenmore to support all of them. They also provide a place for affordable housing for many current homeowners and future families who might move to the area. I'm concerned that the Planning Commission has not really given serious consideration to mobile home park zoning. There are many other jurisdictions in Washington State that have developed a mobile home park zoning ordinance, and those are working really well. The landlords continue to operate their profitable businesses. The homeowners continue to live in their own homes with that level of security. And I just wish that you would look really seriously at zoning for all of the mobile home parks. The rents can still be raised, the land can still be sold, the community owner can continue to operate their very profitable businesses. The homeowners benefit from having the ability to stay in their own homes, and the city benefits by complying with the Growth Management Act by ensuring the preservation of existing neighbourhoods, providing housing for all economic sectors of society, and providing a density and a number of alternative housing options. So I really, really urge you to go back and look at zoning. I noticed that question 6 of the frequently asked questions says that the residents' and the homeowners' opinions were taken into account. But I honestly don't see where that is in any of the recommendations, especially for the 100-plus homeowners whose communities are not recommended for any type of preservation. I also don't blame any homeowner, whether they're from one of the potentially preserved communities or not, from testifying tonight, because really nobody in any of the communities is safe. The land could be sold at any time when the price is right. That's the economic reality we live in. Homeowners in any or all of the communities could be served with a statutory 12-month notice of closure tomorrow, and all have to move out within the next 12 months. Zoning all of the current manufactured housing communities is the only way to preserve more than 250 affordable homeownership units in the city of Kenmore. Please give zoning as mobile home parks real serious consideration and give hope to your homeowners, your residents, your citizens here tonight. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sylvia Narciso.
Good evening. Well, the first thing, thank you. Thank you for staying here for us. And I'm going to read this in Spanish. And okay, we're coming from 7614 Northeast Bato Way. En los residentes de Kenmore Village nos hemos reunido para dar nuestras opiniones de la situación que estamos pasando. Y la mayoría de nosotros estamos de acuerdo en estos puntos. Que la ciudad se involucre más en apoyarnos de los parques en la vivienda accesible y que sigan funcionando como hasta hoy. Que se nos mantenga informados de todas las decisiones que se tomen y las cuales estamos de por medio.
Estoy aquí I'm here from Kenmore Village, and the citizen, we've gotten together and we have talked about our opinion, and we all agree that the city should try to keep the housing affordable, adelante, and that it should get more involved and support us.
Por el otro lado, el miedo y la preocupación en las familias es evidente, porque hasta los niños están enterados de la situación que se está viviendo y también en ellos viven estresados de que hubiera.
On another side, everybody is very stressed. Even the children are worried about it because they hear and they are aware of the situation that we're going through. And they know that they could be taken out of there, and this has been their home for a very long time.
El desalojo que ya aquí ha sido su hogar por mucho tiempo. Pedimos que hagan un esfuerzo por nuestra comunidad, de nuestras casas, y nos den la oportunidad de seguir viviendo como la que hemos estado haciendo por muchos años. Todos hemos luchado por tener nuestros hogares en un buen estado, remodelados y limpios, y es como estamos demostrando que queremos este lugar y queremos vivir aquí.
We're asking that you please make effort to keep our community of mobile houses and that you give us a chance to continue living as we have been doing it so far for so many years. We've all struggled to keep our homes in good condition. We have remodeled them, kept them clean, and that's how we are showing that we want to stay in this place and we want to continue living here.
Si por alguna razón el dueño quisiera vender la propiedad, nos gustaría que se tomaran en cuenta las siguientes propuestas. que se nos diera un plazo de 2 años sin pagar la renta de nuestro espacio para poder ahorrar y buscar un nuevo lugar para nuestras familias.
If for some reason the owners would like to sell this property, we would like to take into consideration the following things: that we would be given a time of 2 years without paying the rent for our lot, so that we could save and find a new place where we could live with our families.
Que se nos pague en un precio justo a como hasta ahora el valor en el mercado, ya que todos somos invertidos en la remodelación de nuestras casas.
And to receive a fair market value price, because we have all invested in remodeling our homes.
Esperamos que nuestras propuestas sean tomadas en cuenta por el bienestar de nuestras familias.
We hope that you consider our thoughts and our opinions for the benefit of our families.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to say something by myself. And if you put your foot in the shoes that we are and walk for a mile, and you're going to feel how we feel. And thank you so much. We need your help. We need everything because we don't make a lot of money. If we do, I think all we have a good house over here, but we don't. We are making our effort to keep our home safe. We just need your help, and please help us. That's the only thing that we need, your help. And you're going to do better tonight and think about us, our family, our kids. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. That is the last name we have on the sign-in sheet. However, if there is anyone, given the time, if there is anyone else who did not sign in who would like to speak, I'd invite them to come up and state your name and address and mobile home park. And
Por ahora ese es el último nombre que tenemos de las personas que se inscribieron para hablar, pero los invito en este momento, si alguien más quiere presentar sus comentarios, por favor acérquense y den su nombre y el parque, la dirección de donde vienen o de la cual van a dar los comentarios.
Okay, seeing no one, then what we will do is I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing till tomorrow, Wednesday at 6 p.m. So we need a motion from my colleagues up here to do that.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing to tomorrow evening at 6 p.m.
Entonces, como nadie más parece que quiere participar hoy, yo quiero en este momento presentar una petición o una moción para aplazar la audiencia hasta mañana, pero necesito que uno de mis colegas, de los planificadores, haga esa petición y yo haré esa petición por parte de la comisión para que se aplace el caso para que se aplace la audiencia hasta mañana a las 6 de la tarde.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hands, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So we will continue the hearing tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing as many of you and your friends as can join us tomorrow. Thank you.
Todos apoyaron la decisión de continuar mañana, de aplazar esto hasta mañana a las 6 de la tarde. Todos están de acuerdo y esa es la decisión. Están cordialmente invitados a volver mañana.